of all for Guantanamo prisoners.
Oh.
So I guess my Twitter just crashed, so I have to delete it and download it again.
What got crushed?
My Twitter.
Oh no.
So I couldn't use it or open it, or because we have been working since last night.
What's happening with your Twitter, Mansoor? Your Twitter seems to be fine.
No, it crashed. You know, I couldn't like it's crashed. So basically, I couldn't open the application anymore. So I have to delete it and reinstall it again.
Oh no. Well, I'm very glad to see everybody here. I don't know how it's going for you, Mansoor, but I'm having a bit of a crazy day here, and not in a bad way. I did an event earlier, a 1-hour discussion with the New America in the States. It was an online discussion, obviously. And I've been getting loads of photos in today with the poster marking 7,671 days. But I'm struggling to keep up with putting all of this out there through the websites and the social media. I've only got 2 hands and there's only 24 hours in the day, but.
Yeah, it's a busy day today and yesterday and this week in general, interviews and event, and like especially, you know, it is important, and I'm so glad that there's a lot of activities. Especially, I'm so happy because I could see a lot of Americans who actually stands for justice and for the closure of Guantanamo, and a lot of people from around the world. Like I was talking to a friend in Mexico who they were protesting in front of the U.S. Embassy, and actually, you know, that feeling. I remember when I was in Guantanamo, when we were on hunger strike for weeks or months or years. So when we heard that our voice get out and get the news that people, you know, protesting, people like the media pick up on our hunger strike, it gives us some kind of, honestly, like happiness, hope, and gives like some kind of energy to keep doing what we do. What we are doing, because with the current administration, the policy, they didn't show you anything, the result or the impact of what you're doing. So that can feel helpless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine it was like that for years, Mansoor. I do recall hearing eventually there was a very strange phase when I think you were allowed to watch. Was it RT and Al Jazeera?
No, actually, Andy, we heard about you a lot from the lawyers. There is like a musician guy who through a musician like campaigning to start website. So you stuck with us all the time. So what happened with the musician, the British guy? Like always got the news about you because we get a lot of your activities. We were allowed to watch TV only starting in 2010 after open the communal living, and we started having like libraries, TVs, satellites. So we watched the news, and we started like that in 2010. The first time I watched what happened 9/11, then start watching the news basically, and yeah.
But am I right in thinking it was RT that you were allowed to watch?
Sorry, RT were one of them. Al Jazeera,
Right.
We weren't allowed to have Al Jazeera. We have press, TV press. We have some another Arabic channel. So to be honest with you, we have to. They like they like RT and other channels, but what we did, they have the remote control, and what they did, they put the password. So we spent 4 days, 4 of us each. We have to try every single number so we can break the code. So we did it. Then we have to like there is like in the remote control, there's like a master code. So we found it. No matter what the code they did, we changed, like it were 1407 or something like that. So then what they did, they basically delete all the buttons, only 2 where you can like the channels and the volume. So what we did, we took one of the brothers. He said, okay, what you need to do, we took like the yogurt cover. So we put it there for the button. Then again, it was like whenever we have like a TV channel, we have to cover the camera to the TV. Also, we can cover the corner with the show RT. So basically, because they don't want us to have like channel like that.
Yeah. So, Richard.
Yes, sorry, our connection problems. Yes, great to have you all here in particular.
You're there and connected okay?
Yeah, all fine.
I'm realizing we could just happily have a freewheeling conversation with Mansoor, and that would happily occupy the hour. But I'm thinking that we should discuss some of the topics around Guantanamo on the anniversary. So
yes, I think so. So, but it's good to you the Mansoor in particular, and you are the two discussants to work that through a bit, give us insight. But what we really I think had said is we wanted to take stock a bit, see what the situation is now, what going forward are the most pressing sort of strategic and tactical points, and then maybe also see what angles people think. And that's more of a discussion debate around the rule of law or other headline topics, which could be the anchoring one to attract the interest or the continuing interest of a wider public and wider networks. I think that's the kind of idea.
Yeah.
So maybe the first sort of element is, and that definitely would be the two of you, to take stock where you think we are now at 21, years on, unfortunately, as an anniversary, and what the current situation is. What is the up-to-date sort of situation? Taking stock first.
Do you want me to explain a little bit about the situation then? Shall I go talk about this?
That'd be good. And then definitely Mansoor adding reflections, comments on that. And then other people can come in with other information they're aware of. And I think that's best to start there, I think.
Okay, well, here we are, sadly, on the 21st anniversary of the opening of Guantanamo. There are 35 men still held there. Obviously, over the years, we've seen the prison's population reduced to just 5% of what it was overall. We had those 532 men released by George W. Bush, 196 men released under President Obama, one man unwillingly released by Donald Trump when the prison was sealed for 4 years. And now President Biden, who owns Guantanamo. Let's not forget that this is now his responsibility. He inherited 40 men. He has released 5. Perhaps that sounds like progress, and to some extent it is. But the problem that we have fundamentally with Guantanamo at the moment is that 20 of the 35 men who are still held have been approved for release, and yet they are still languishing at Guantanamo. And this is because the process by which they were approved for release is called the periodic review boards. Now, this is a process that was set up under Barack Obama. And one of the reasons for setting it up was the opposition that Obama faced in Congress when it came to dealing with Guantanamo. So the periodic review boards were established as a kind of parole type process. One huge difference being that parole type processes in every other venue take place after someone has actually been charged and convicted of a crime. But this was a way for him to set up military panels that would listen to prisoners as they tried to make a case for why they should be freed. They were required essentially to show contrition for the crimes of which they were accused, whether or not they had actually had anything to do with the crimes of which they were accused, and to establish for the panel's benefit that it would be safe to release them, that they would lead peaceful lives, peaceful and constructive lives, if released from Guantanamo. This, under Obama, led to 38 men being approved for release out of 64 who went through this process. And he released all but 2 of those men before he left office. Then we Swiftly, we have to move through the Trump years where only one man towards the end of his presidency was approved for release through a PRB. What actually happened was the prisoners realized that the change in the commander-in-chief meant that there was absolutely no interest in approving any of them for release, and the majority of the men boycotted their hearings during the 4 years of Trump. So now to Biden. Biden gets into office and he takes on board messages that he's getting from lawyers and NGOs that he's met up with before he actually moved into the White House, saying, we find it intolerable that not only that Guantanamo exists, but the specific problem for the men held there is that you are holding so many men that you claim are too dangerous to release, but you haven't got sufficient evidence to prove that by putting them on trial. And you have this review process, and it needs to be the case that if you're not going to charge people, they need to be released. And actually, in his first year in office, he had letters from 24 senators, 75 members of the House of Representatives, who, as well as telling him to close Guantanamo, also said, you know, we believe after 20 years, it is intolerable that the United States is holding people indefinitely without charge or trial at Guantanamo. So what he's done since then is the periodic review boards under Biden had 22 forever prisoners when he came into office, and they approved 19 of those men for release. This leaves just 3 forever prisoners, but the problem is that of the 19 men approved for release, only 3 of them have been freed. So 16 of the men approved for release are still there. And some of those men were approved for release nearly 2 years ago. So are we expecting to hear that they will be released anytime soon? You would kind of think that should be the case. The problem is that there is no legal requirement to release any of these men. They were approved for release through a purely administrative process. There's no court that they can go to say the government is dragging its heels. They told me that that they had decided that I no longer constituted a security threat, and that subject to clearances, I would be able to leave this place, either to go back to my home country or to be resettled in a third country. But there is no requirement for this to happen. And what we're seeing is basically nothing from the Biden administration. Now, I think that that is profoundly shameful on this anniversary day. And I will particularly highlight why I think it's so shameful. So imagine that a year and a half ago, you are one of these prisoners at Guantanamo. You've already been held there for 15 years or more. And you are told by the government one day, after you've had your review, you know, we are approving you for transfer subject to all of the security assurances, etc. That would give you hope. And yet that hope has been dashed because you have not actually been freed. And no one can tell you when, if ever, you will actually be freed. So I maintain that that's actually crueler than not having gone through this whole process in the first place, of giving people hope that they were going to be freed. So that, I think, is the particularly crucial issue on this anniversary, is that we're stuck with an administration that has gone halfway towards the point that we need to be at, which is approving prisoners for release, but has not done the crucial second part of this, which is actually to free them. And what we can do about it, I don't know. I mean, what I can tell you is that of these 20 men, at least 7 of them are people who can be repatriated. There shouldn't be a problem with that. There are 2 Pakistanis, there are 3 Saudis, there's a Kenyan, there's an Algerian. I don't know why those men are not already home. The rest of the men, it's a more difficult situation because countries have to be found that are prepared to resettle them. So there are 9 Yemenis. Some of those Yemenis are Mansoor's very good friends from Guantanamo. There is also a Libyan and a Somali man who have to have third countries found for them, because US law prohibits returning prisoners to any of these countries. It's difficult finding countries prepared to take people in. Obviously, some of us here tonight, I think, are from the United States. So this problem arises because of a ban in the United States on any prisoner being resettled on the US mainland under any circumstances. Those of us who are from Britain face a problem in that we have the most right-wing Home Secretary in living memory who wouldn't be interested. What I do think that we can do if we come together is start to find ways to approach European parliamentarians to raise the humanitarian issue of resettling former prisoners in European countries. And, you know, I would like to hear more. I mean, the problem is that although there's someone appointed in the State Department to deal with Guantanamo transfers, a woman called Lisa Cadenau, she was appointed to that job in the summer. She's not at liberty to talk publicly about the kind of things that we need to know about. Are the US government talking to Oman, for example, where a lot of Guantanamo prisoners, and I think Mansoor can back me up on this, have been successfully resettled? Are they talking, and this is more problematic, but it is a possible way out. Are they talking to the Saudi government about taking people into Saudi Arabia and putting them through their rehabilitation program?
No one will be.
Which countries are they talking to? How can we help? So, you know, I'm appalled on this anniversary that the Biden administration is doing nothing. I thought that maybe we would hear today that at least what they would throw to us, understanding that there would be criticism, was that we would hear that some of these men have been released, but I've heard nothing.
Look, Andy, we're going to come back to the tactics and the strategy, but first I want to go back to Mansoor and, you know, what you know, not everyone necessarily knows how you were released and what your process for release were, and maybe give us your reflection, Mansoor, on how typical or atypical your process to liberty again was, and what I can tell you about the process so far, and the remaining people who are still trapped in Guantanamo Bay.
First of all, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to welcome you all. Ahlan wa ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba. Thank you so much for being here today. We are sadly talking about the 20th anniversary of Guantanamo, that become a symbol of oppression, injustice, lawlessness, abuse of power, and you name it. It's just indefinite detention. And I think it's one of the biggest human rights violations in the 21st century. It has been by the United States, and it is, and like what I'm checking out, the silence from the international community toward Guantanamo. Guantanamo is a big mess. It's like the upside down world. There is no, you don't understand what would happen. Like when I was in Guantanamo, the Guantanamo rules keep changing every time. Like, you know, the SOP, what they call standard operating procedures, change almost like every 2 weeks. So the process of releasing the prisoners at the early years, they started what they call, you know, the military commission review our case in 2004. Almost all of us were deemed as like enemy combatant. Then some of the prisoners released without any kind of process. They just send them back to their home countries, to Saudi Arabia, to Yemen, to Pakistan, to Afghanistan, without any kind of process. They would came and told, okay, you will be leaving. Just all of that, just like this. However, then when I think just George W. Bush, they wanted to empty the prison, but they didn't have much time. When Obama came, 2000, when he was elected, he, as you know, he signed executive order to close Guantanamo. But as Yemenis, there was like a ban from Congress to transfer Yemenis back to Yemen, and we were the majority of the prisoners in Guantanamo at the time. Then 2013, we had like a massive hunger strike. They reinstated what they call periodic review board, or PRPs, and at that time, what they want us to say, was the process. Sorry, in 2009, when Obama was elected, they brought some kind of I think, commission. They go through the files without even meeting the prisoners, and they cleared many prisoners for release without even meeting them. And that stopped in 2010. In 2013, they reinstated the PRPs, and it was a process for releasing prisoners. The process was, when we go to the PRPs, they want you to admit that you regret, regardless. It is like, well, I remember like the Hunger Games, when Hamish told the Katniss, you have to go through it in order to go out of it. So basically, it is the game we have to play with. It doesn't matter, because they know you have done nothing. They know your files, but it is like, it's kind of like a shit show. What's your PRPs, and you admit, okay, I regret, and this is my plan for future. And also, they would ask interrogators, medical staff, guards, everyone, and we were given points. Basically, everyone has to say he's a good person, he's cooperative. If you're on hunger strike, you have a problem. If you get ERF teams, or you have problem with Sigma, this is a problem for you. So basically, that judge you based on your behavior in the detention. So, and it during Obama at that time, the process was they were interested what you want to do in the future. So what's your plan for your life? Sorry. Basically, the process was, you know, after we were being cleared, delegation would come from different countries during Obama, like from Kazakhstan, from here, from Serbia, from Italy, from different countries, and they would from Slovakia, from Uruguay. They would meet with the prisoners, and they would select whomever they like. So it was like a market for taking us. It was like, and we have to go there, and we have to tell them we are innocent. We need to do this. We are going to do this. We have. You know, the funny part at Guantanamo, those delegation, they brought some specialized people in Islamic studies, and they would ask us questions. we didn't even thought about Islam, about Khilafah, about, you know, stuff like, okay, guys, those people are really have a lot of knowledge. And one of the brothers said, "Wallah, I feel I am in the like Islamic university and being tested." So basically, then if you get lucky, then you'll get, okay, you get approved, then you'll be released. And after then they would send a letter to 30 days before to the Congress to approve our release. However, in the PRP, you know, there should be like unanimous agreement from different intelligence agencies, including CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, NSA. State departments, you know, at also Department of Justice. All of them, they have to agree for release that prisoner. So during the PRPs continued during Trump, but the process changed. Now the prisoner has to go to the PRP, and he must admit to all the charges against him. If they told him you are Osama bin Laden, he must say I'm Osama bin Laden. If they told him you are Al-Qaeda, he must say I'm Al-Qaeda. If he said no to any of them, he will never get approved. Never. And most of the prisoners, they refuse either to participate, because they said it's like a way of whitewashing the interrogation. And most of the prisoners, they get approved during that time. So the 20 now that those have been approved for release, some of them have been approved in 2010. Yeah, they're still there. So then the process after the prisoner gets released to a country, are we going to talk about that after Guantanamo? You know, the agreement, it is actually a classified or secret agreement. Even our lawyers have no idea what's the agreement between the United States and the hosting countries. And I will talk later on about life after Guantanamo. I mean, this is the process from 2002 until 2021. Basically, it keeps changing, evolving. Different administration, they have their own way of releasing prisoners, the process. So yeah, we are still being hacked, right?
No, I think we're okay. I double clicked on your name. I don't know if that did anything. No, I'm still trying to get your video, but carry on.
Oh, so any other question, or should continue to talk about? I mean, this is basically this is the process, you know. And some of the prisoners, you know, get approved by, they went through the military commission, like Salim Hamdan, and some of them get when their court in the Supreme Court for their release. It's like there are 2 or 3 cases, but the majority of the prisoners, you have to go through the process of the PRP, and you have to play with the rules of the PRPs, regardless. You know, what I remember in my PRPs when I talked to the PRP commission, and they told me it is unclear if he actually joined Al-Qaeda, and none of Al-Qaeda members or Al-Qaeda leaders recognize him as member of Al-Qaeda. And I said, look, guys, either to say I'm Al-Qaeda or I'm Al-Qaeda. I said no, you know. And the officer who was in charge of my case, he said, Mansoor, we cannot just easily say we detain an innocent man for 14 years. However, one of the Al-Qaeda propagandists at Guantanamo and one of Osama bin Laden bodyguards, they said, if you need our statements for you to say that you weren't Al-Qaeda, we more than happy to do that. So they said, no, we're going to not to take statement from those people, because they would say that. I said, it's not like that. So the process, it is their own process, and you have to go through it regardless, because I knew they're going to release us, but they want to set up a form that how we get prisoners get released. Then after that, the agreement between the United States and the hosting countries is classified. And to be honest with you, it is if you are lucky, if you end up in Oman or Germany or Ireland or Qatar, you are so lucky. If you end up in Kazakhstan or Serbia or United Arab Emirates, you are fucking screwed badly. I mean, like, sorry for this bad words, but I watched my brother suffer. I suffer a lot because, you know, I think Andy remember what happened to the brothers in the United Arab Emirates. I don't want to jump to talk about life after Guantanamo, Andy, so I will let you continue.
Well,
Mansoor, you might be able to start your video now, if you want to. In fact, anybody can now start their video.
Yeah.
Oh, we're back.
Nice to see you.
Well, this is turning into an interesting evening, isn't it? So,
yes.
Did we lose Richard? Is he back with us? Thank you for that, Mansoor. I wanted to. I was going to mention as well that that a number of groups in the United States have set up the Guantanamo Survivors Fund, and they're working with Mansoor to identify, in the absence of any responsibility on the part of the United States government, to identify people in need. Who have been resettled in various countries where they're really struggling. The Guantanamo Survivors Fund, if you look that up, you will be able to find it. And they're, you know, raising funds and helping out men who have essentially been abandoned by the United States government. So beyond you know, the short-term aim of campaigners, which is to get Guantanamo closed and to get these men approved for release out of the prison. One of the things that I'm hoping to properly start establishing this year is the Guantanamo Accountability Project, to address the crimes that have been committed essentially over the last 21 years, to demand that the US investigates everything that has happened at Guantanamo, and to properly address the failures of intelligence that underpin the whole of what the authorities like to claim is the evidence at Guantanamo, but most of which is profoundly unreliable. And also to deal with the very particular problem that Mansoor knows about in Serbia, with no fundamental rights, that when Mansoor and all the other prisoners were taken to Guantanamo, they were stripped of all rights as human beings. An astonishing situation. And what makes it even worse, I think, now is that hasn't fundamentally been properly addressed. So even if you're released from Guantanamo, you still continue to have no fundamental rights. The governments of your home country, or of if like Mansoor, you're resettled in another country, can do what they want with you. Right? Not only were there secret agreements as to what was supposed to happen between the US government and the host governments, but they continue to be tainted by having been enemy combatants. So, as you can say, Mansoor, people are not allowed to travel. They're not given passports. They're not allowed visitors. They're not allowed to work. They can be arbitrarily harassed. They can be arbitrarily imprisoned.
Yes. Sorry.
Please go ahead, Mansoor.
Andy, here's the thing, for the last 2 years, I thought I got like presidency. I am the police, the Secret Service handed my case to the police. I thought everything's okay. I think last month I went just to let you know how the situation. I went to the city to renew my bus card. Then I got I get to fighting with the people in civilian clothes. I found out that they were like police. They never told me they were police. Someone were calling me and shouting at me. I don't want to get into trouble, so I continue walking. So someone can grab me from behind. I took him to the ground, like fighting. Then I was taken to the police. I shouldn't be talking about this anyway. Then I felt like helpless because under their thumb. Here's the deal. So we had to deal with the situation, not talk to the media, not talk to the lawyers, not talk to anyone, and just resolve it that way. And they were so wrong. I have done nothing wrong. And they told me you have to sign some papers. I said, okay, I will sign 2 papers. I'm going to contact my friends in the media. I'm going to talk to my lawyers. So it's just simple incident. Let us go a little to Guantanamo. Some of the prisoners at Guantanamo, when they went to the PRP, they were refused to clear them. They said they don't have clear plan for their life after Guantanamo. I was screaming and shouting, you detained this man for 20 fucking years. And you ask him, you didn't have clear plan for your life after Guantanamo? Man being tortured, abused, connected totally from the world. And you ask him to have a plan. So he, it's just sometimes like, it is, I don't know what, I didn't find the good word how to describe so stupid, so silly, so ignorant, so hateful, whatever. So I know like some of the brothers, what plan do you expect them to say? You have to give them, you have to make them like you. You have to make them happy. It's not my job to make you happy. Why being held here? So we were protesting for years and years to be tried before US justice system. The same system they accused us that we want to destroy America, basically. So after Guantanamo, I'm not the worst case. The worst case is, as you know, Andy, what happened to the brothers in the United Arab Emirates. They were calling to go back to Guantanamo. When I think Alisa Swain is here. He's my friend who was working at the Intercept. She works in Abdul Qadir case. She interviewed him, interviewed his brothers. It's one of the heartbreaking case. The man lost his mind in the United Arab Emirates jail, sent back to Yemen without any kind arrangement. The Houthi, the second, would be even like he didn't finish in 24 hours. He was taken by the Houthi, a man mentally ill, totally, and he was in prison for almost like 6 or 10 months. And we had to fight again, like to get him released. Some of the other prisoners also were in prison again. There is one Russian who was sent from 2016 to the United Arab Emirates, still in the United Arab Emirates jail until that day, without any right, it was a resettlement agreement. We are talking about Sabri, who met the Kazakhstani government delegation in 2014, and they told him, you will come, you will be treated like our citizens. You will be given housing and stipend. Will help you to build your life. When he arrived there, they told him, we have nothing for you. They were treated like terrorists. They were beating, dragged from the airplanes, and they have to go on hunger strike. For the last 8 years, he has been suffering no legal status. He is not allowed to meet his wife. He has been married for the last 8 years. When I talk to him, sometimes I feel like he's losing his mind. He had like really deep depression, PTSD. And he feels he doesn't live anymore because he's just between life and death, the way he's being treated. And for the last 8 years, and that problem could be solved easily if United States intervened. What happened when Trump came, the situation went worse. I was told personally that Serbian government told me, you know, everything is now. Trump is a president. So in 2018, they told me, go to the street or you will be deported to Saudi jail. So we had to fight again, over and over again. Like I was arrested a few times, harassed and so on. But, you know, I still some problems, but you know, we, alhamdulillah, after the help from friends and the media and my lawyers, I am in better position than some others. We are talking about the Uyghurs, Andy, who were transferred in 2007 to Albania. And for the last 13 years, they have no legal status. They have no IDs, like Sabri. So live after Guantanamo, you know, I have prepared the report. I sent it to State Department. I sent it to some lawyers. And we think, because in 2020, when I finished my bachelor degree, it was about rehabilitation and reintegration of former Guantanamo detainees into social life and the labor market. Then I prepared a separate report how to help those prisoners, because when you are being released from Guantanamo, there isn't any kind of rehabilitation or reintegration program. There is like nothing, especially when you sent to a third country, you're being just, your case will be handed to the Secret Service and to the police, who view you or treat you as a threat, as a terrorist, as a dangerous guy, and they will treat it accordingly. So living in the stigma, the media in the country also, it just, you know, they destroy our life totally. They put our photo, they were terrorists, they Al-Qaeda, they are killers, and we become like a conflict between the government and the opposition, basically. So, and that contribute to our suffering within the country. And if there is a change in the government, like what happened in Slovakia, I mean, you are screwed totally. If the government that take you from Guantanamo, then the other government opposition, they will treat you differently. It happened like with the many former prisoners. However, there is successful cases. We are talking about Oman, we are talking about Germany, we are talking about Ireland, we are talking about Qatar, we are talking about some cases too, where prisoners become productive members. They have families, business, jobs, they move on with their life. But so others, there are a lot of struggle, and you know, like what needs to be done in the end, we need the State Department to step in, and they should either speak directly to these countries to improve the situation for those prisoners, or to relocate those prisoners to countries where can be live their life normally. Basically, we started Guantanamo Survivors Fund with no more Guantanamo against torture and hurt organization, but even that, it is just small relief in emergency cases like medical treatment, or people who end up homeless, or someone who was actually helping to pay the rent or to pay for their education, the kids' education, or for example, Abdul Qadir in his case, to get married and so on. So far it's a little like really small program, and there is a lot of cases, and the aim of the program was to help the men, if they can like vocational training, or if they have like small business, they can get funded and can like support themselves.
Yeah, well, I think it's very important, Mansoor. So, you know, I do hope that if people are interested, they will go and look up the Guantanamo Survivors Fund, you know, because whatever is happening through people's support of that, it's more than what the United States government is doing. And that's the problem. What we want, the point we want to reach is of some kind of accountability, but, you know, we're a long way from that. I wanted also just to flag up for people here who are British, that the case of the Russian who was sent to the United Arab Emirates, where these men were imprisoned in conditions that were at least as bad as Guantanamo. And he's the only one of the 23 men still held there. So all the Yemenis were forcibly returned to Yemen, and some of those people really suffered as a result. There were a handful of Afghans, they were sent back to Afghanistan, but Ravil Mingazov is still stuck there. Lawyers, NGOs, the United Nations have all intervened in his case, but I haven't really heard anything about his case since I think the summer before last, so 2021. What's interesting from a British perspective is that his wife and his son is in his early 20s, and I've met him, were granted asylum in the UK. They're here. It seems to me that there ought to be a case for putting pressure on the British government to accept Ravel here as well. I'm sure that we're all aware that that would be extremely difficult, given the current government and the dreadful state of what passes for a Home Secretary in this country. But I do think if we're going forward on this year, it may be worth looking again into trying to find out whether we can get some kind of awareness of his case, at least to do that.
Yeah, it's not the case. Sorry.
No, I'm just wondering whether Richard's here or not, or whether he got locked out of the meeting. Please, Mansoor, carry on.
I think Richard may have been locked out, and I think that may be my fault, because I was trying to hit a button to lock everything down, and his I might have highlighted him when I did that, and it must have been not something that locked everything down, but something that threw him out. So I'm gonna try and make contact with him and
Okay.
see if that's what happened to him.
But in the meantime, I mean, what do you think in the absence of Richard running things here? Should we open this up to questions? Do people have questions for Mansoor, or shall we do that?
You're muted, Luis.
Yeah, sorry. I see somebody named Richard here. Let's see if that's him. So if I click ask to unmute, if anyone is named Richard here, oh, there you are. Oh no, that's a different Richard. Hello.
Yes, hello, Andy. I'm Mansoor, but I'm glad to join you tonight, but I'm not the Richard you're looking for.
All right. All right. Well, if anyone knows any other Richards, we'll just keep trying.
Are we in a position where we can open it up for questions?
I see what you mean. I tell you what, we'll take our chances. I'll see if I can unmute. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. I've now allowed everyone to unmute themselves.
Okay.
So anybody can unmute themselves and ask a question. Oh, somebody, okay, you Sanderman says Richard is locked out. Oh God.
Yeah, he's locked out, David. So why don't you go ahead and take the questions from Megan and Shadia, who've got their hands up.
Okay. Yeah, Megan first.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell Mansoor that I've enjoyed watching your bike rides through Serbia, and I'm so glad you're okay. And I'm hoping that everything's okay with the police that happened last week. I hope that you don't have to go through any long process. Is everything okay there? Or
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I enjoyed that ride to close Guantanamo. It's the first time, and we are planning to do the second one this year. Will be group. And if anyone would like to join us, you can join us. Basically, it was like one of the best moments in my life to do that ride alone. And yeah, what the incident with the police, they made a mistake, and everything is okay now. I hope so. But what I felt that time, what they told me, you have to finish the case with them, or they can be hunted all your life here, basically. So you feel when there's no, as a former Guantanamo detainee, you feel unsafe and feel like, what I'm doing here. So when being told they make your life difficult, hard, you won't be able to get driving license, you won't be able to get a travel document, you want to be able to, they know how to hurt you, basically.
Another question?
I'm sorry to hear that, Mansoor. I wish that it wasn't like that.
at least, Mansoor, at least internationally, you can be with friends through meetings like this. And of course, you know, your message has gone around the world through your amazing book.
Yeah, I mean, like all my friends and family online. So basically here, the result of the stigma of Guantanamo and the early years of pressure from the government, I have no friends. And so basically all my connection friends online, and alhamdulillah, like sometimes I feel loneliness, sometimes I need to find someone to drink coffee, to chat with. But, you know, I manage, alhamdulillah, and thank you so much for you all. I can see Shadi, you have a question, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Shukran. I'm really, really honored and privileged to be part of this and to hear what you've had to say. And thank you as well to Andy for giving us a context by which we can work and take everything that we need to do forward. I really, really applaud you, Mansoor, for your courage and bravery and continuing in this difficulty. I think you're absolutely right about the need to keep the what's been happening in Guantanamo over the last 21 years alive. What many of us found who in the UK and London who took part in the silent vigils that we hold every month is that when we talk to those who pass us by, there are so many that actually don't know anything about Guantanamo. I was particularly shocked, and this isn't a comment on all London black taxi drivers, but there were some of them who, because we were in the middle of Parliament Square and the cars and lorries and taxis had to go around very slowly because it was congested, we had the opportunity of handing out a leaflet to some of the taxi drivers, and they would just say, oh, they're all guilty. And I think, you know, you talked about the media, and the UK media has a lot to answer for, because it isn't a mouthpiece of the truth. So we've got a lot to do in terms of actually informing the media, informing young people, teenagers who are going to need to learn about what's happened. We can't just, if everybody was released from Guantanamo tomorrow, we need to keep those 21 years as a symbol of what can happen in so-called democracies when the rule of law is departed from. And that takes me on to Andy's point about accountability. And it occurred to me when I was listening that otherwise there would be civil claims of damages made for the false imprisonment and for the psychological harm that's been perpetrated, which would normally happen, but obviously is not happening. We must call governments to account, and it's the US government mainly, but we've also been complicit. What concerns me as well is that what is going to happen, I don't know, Mansoor, whether you can answer this or whether this is something Andy can answer, but what's going to happen to those structures? Mansoor, you mentioned the military commissions in 2004. There are still those pieces of legislation in place, and there are still processes and particular versions of what torture is or is not, and arbitrary arrests. There are still those outside the law, if you like, structures that are still there. Are they going to just disappear if Guantanamo or when Guantanamo shuts down? That's my concern, that still the Islamophobia, which is rife throughout so many countries and really is on the march, particularly in Western Europe. And we have a lot to fear from many of those states. And you've mentioned, we've heard some of those mentioned already. What can we do for the future? Educating people, challenging the media, calling on our government. But at the same time, it's those structures or lack of structure of rule of law, which is not going to just evaporate tomorrow. And Muslim men, women, and their families are going to find what you're describing as being outside society. Any comments really on any of that, Mansoor, or perhaps Andy, or anybody else who wants to join the discussion?
I would just say briefly that, you know, the only thing that we can be glad about in terms of Guantanamo is that no one has been sent there since the spring of 2008. It's actually a kind of acknowledgement that all of the experiments that took place in kidnapping people, in setting up torture sites around the world, and in imprisoning people indefinitely without charge or trial wasn't something that works as an ongoing thing. Unfortunately, that means that the men who are stuck there are stuck in what is a kind of legacy of failure, but can't get out. But I think that's the only bright light I would see in that whole story. Mansoor?
Mansoor, you're muted.
So basically, as you know, Guantanamo was the most secretive prison in the world, and the structure that's set up there, it is chaos. Basically, that what we have seen Guantanamo, the victims of 9/11 or Guantanamo having seen injustice for the last 20 years because it was created outside of the justice system, outside our humanity. So what the government, like when I was in 2016, I saw they start dismantling some of the blocks. Then we talked to the lawyers tried to stop them from doing it because there is like evidence for torture, where detainees were tortured, and like some of them lost their life. Basically, I'm afraid sometimes, like especially when in 2016 when Trump was elected, I was afraid I would be sent back because that man is crazy. He said, like, go keep Guantanamo open, and he would fill it with bad dudes. So in terms of what would happen, you know, we don't know. We don't know. Sometimes, like, I feel they want Guantanamo is going to be closed because, like, lost hope. So if we can get the prisoner released, but as you know, when you fight with the U.S. government, they will always make obstacles, and I don't think we can see. I don't know how to answer this question, to be honest with you, but at the same time, when we talk about accountability or justice for Guantanamo, so far, we are not allowed to even to sue the U.S. government before the U.S. justice system.
Okay.
Can I say? I was just going to say something. I really feel that Mansoor, you writing a book, and you know the other book, Muhammadu Salahi's book. I kind of feel like if you and the artwork, I kind of feel like if you guys becomes in a way celebrities, the more you become public figures. First of all, the harder it is for anyone to put anyone back in prison because you become known and your story becomes known. But also, I think the way that just seeing you humanizes you, and you know that by being public like that, then you are in a position to draw attention. Well, basically to draw the attention that's going to be needed even after, I mean, as has been said here, even after the prison is closed, there's going to have to be a reckoning. There's going to have to be compensation, and the people who have been shipped off to countries where they're badly treated, we need to tell their story. And I think you may feel lonely now, but I and obviously like public exposure is no substitute for friendship, but on the other hand, it's I think it's great. I think it will make a difference. The more you guys, the more all of the ex-detainees become public figures, the harder it becomes. The harder it is for anyone to sweep any of this under the table. But I mean, you know that. But I just from the outside, it makes a tremendous difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much. Also, after Guantanamo, some of us were forced to sign agreement not to talk to the media at all. So basically,
really?
Yes, in some countries, they're not allowed to communicate with the lawyers or with the media. And they were told they have to sign some papers. When I came here, because when I was released against my will, basically. So I was brought to Guantanamo forcibly. And when they released me, I refused to come to Serbia. So they literally dragged me to the first reading chair, fly me to Syria. They told me, you have no choice. As long as, I remember the ICRC came ask me, he told me, I am here to ask you, do you think there will be a threat in your life in Serbia? I said, will you guarantee my life? He said, no. I told him, I don't want to go. He said, I'm sorry, you have no choice. So after Guantanamo, you know, being, as you say, figure, you have to sacrifice a lot. Oh, I mean a lot, I mean a lot, I mean a lot. So the stigma of Guantanamo, family, and finding a job, getting married, traveling, and it's not that easy. And if you travel to any country and they know you're in Guantanamo, it's hard to get into the country. Unless if there is like a process and there's like lawyers involved and so on. But we will continue the fight. I mean, part of the closure of Guantanamo, we are not just asking for the closure of the physical place, but also we are asking for the accountability. We're asking for acknowledgement. We are apologizing and also compensation. This is part of closing Guantanamo, and this also we call it justice.
That's great.
So am I right in thinking that we have an hour altogether? So we should probably be winding up quite soon. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it can go on. I think. Oh, I have one other question. I mean, I suppose, you know, we're trying to get this all-party parliamentary committee going. Mansoor, if you can, I mean, do you have any thoughts on what that committee should be doing? What can be done specifically in Britain? Because I think the challenge that will come up with that committee over and over is people saying, well, you know, this doesn't involve us. This is America's problem. But you know, it would be interesting to hear your opinion on either Britain's role or what Britain could do.
I will let Andy answer this question.
No, I think we were looking for your opinion, Mansoor, as to what you would like British MPs to, you know, to know or you know, what they should be thinking about, what their role could be. And
you know, Guantanamo, like when you look at Guantanamo case, it doesn't just involve or concern those prisoners or humans who are trapped there or imprisoned there. It's about us all as humans, as humanity, because it touches us all, especially when a country like United States, the most powerful country that preaches democracy, human rights, equality, and you name it, an invaded country to save those countries and to spread democracy. Yet they have their own black hole, indefinitely imprisoned people without human rights, without trial or charge for 20 years. I think there should be, there must be some call from international communities, or like in England and other countries. They should call in the United States to end, to close Guantanamo and to release the prisoners. And because, as I told you, Guantanamo is not about the men who are imprisoned there. If there will be no closing Guantanamo, no accountability, there's no guarantee Guantanamo won't happen again. And tomorrow it happened with us, tomorrow would happen maybe with British people. And there was like British people who were imprisoned there. And I think they should involve, and they should call on the United States. They should do something. Because as you know, Andy, for the last, as you know, one of the most active voices in the closing Guantanamo, what we do or just to keep Guantanamo case in the service of the media and to embarrass the government and to make some media pressure and so on. And we need to see actions from those politicians and either in England or in other countries to take actions, even individuals, even, you know, just tweet about closing Guantanamo or write something about it.
yeah,
Does anyone, are there any other questions? I don't see any hands up. Oh, Doreen Marshall, you have your hand up.
Yes. Well, as I'm a citizen of the shameful United States, and my fear is what I think Mansoor referred to a little bit of the evidence of what happened there being covered up. And as you probably know right now, that our government is totally in disarray. And I mean, the Republicans are insane. Trump is insane, and I'm sorry, the T is silent. But we have to just, even if it's just one person, just keep it out there. Wear the shirts, because the shirts, a lot of people say to us, well, it's closed. It's been closed for years. No. And then you give them Andy's website, and so forth and so on. I mean, even we went to a peace club. We were last year at a high school, and one of the topics, one of the days was the Guantanamo. And those kids knew nothing about it except, the hype, and they were shocked. So we just have to keep at it, and the people have to be held accountable, and Bush and Cheney have to be held accountable, and everybody else that was involved. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Doreen. Well, I actually have to go to another meeting, guys. I'm sorry to say. It has been great, and I have to leave now, but by all means, carry on talking to Mansoor. Mansoor, I'll see you later. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Right.
Thanks, Andy,
Thank you,
very much.
Andy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I'm here if you have any questions or would like to talk about anything about Guantanamo related hunger strike, our art. I have an article which inshallah is coming soon about the beautiful Guantanamo, which is just talk about the beautiful Guantanamo, because there is beauty in Guantanamo. So sorry, we are just talking about the dark side and so on. It is sad, to watch like 21 years like that. But again, the beautiful of our humanity, it really, we saw it at Guantanamo as 15 nationalities, over 20 languages spoken, different mindset, different culture. It came just at Guantanamo, and it makes interacted and become Guantanamo culture. And soon you will read about it in the one of the magazines.
Oh, that's great.
I have to go as well. Mansoor, we'll think of you on Saturday when we gather in the center of London for a vigil. We'll think of you all the way as we progress through the center of London and end up with a lot of speeches, with a renewed determination to go on trying to shut this thing down. So from me, fantastic, huge thanks. You're an inspiration, and let's talk to you very soon. I have to head off, but good night and thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll bring this meeting to a close. But Mansoor, I hope your book is selling, and I think we should try and arrange some showing for your art and anything like that. Anything that makes it public, anything that, and as you say, not necessarily just the story of victims, but the story of creative, productive men.
Yeah, we have also now, we are working with the Amazon project called audiobook about letters from Guantanamo. So I collected letters from my letters and other letters. Behind me here, Life After Guantanamo will be like the next book about life after Guantanamo and extension of Guantanamo. So, yeah.
Well, that's great, because I mean, the UK Guantanamo Network, that is one thing that we are trying to do is to publicize the, like for instance, there was the film The Mauritanian, right, about Mohamedou Salahi. I mean, we've been trying to encourage groups both here and in the United States to get screenings of that film, because it had a hard time. They had a hard time publicizing it because it was COVID, right? So we're trying to get that film another chance. But I think anything like the artwork or the audiobooks or anything that you produce, I think we would like to help you promote, because I think that makes a tremendous difference if you move, if you include obviously, the dark side, but also the light, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, there will be an art exhibition in London, and I think in the 28th of January.
Oh,
So,
great. Okay.
yeah, and
20.
like,
so that's soon.
yeah, there will be like small exhibition, but I think in summer they are planning to do like a big one. So basically they will just now like have 20 painting or something, but in summer they said they will do a bigger one and advertise it and so on. So yeah, like honestly, if it's kind of hard sometimes to publish any articles or to get any project about Guantanamo. We have been trying to do a TV show like in 2020. I was accepted with the workshop with the Sundance, and we developed the TV show about Guantanamo. So it's kind of hard to find, a production company that can help us to make it. And because, again, nobody wants to, humanizing Guantanamo means that makes the government look bad, basically. And people, no one wants to do to this project would like to make the government look bad. But we are trying to get this done. I hope we will find someone who can fund the project and get it done, because it will be an amazing prize. This TV show about the life in Guantanamo. It doesn't like really involve the torture. No, it's just about the life in Guantanamo, about life among prisoners, life between detainees and guards. There is like different stories. It's about guards, camp staff, prisoners, animals, families, and ICRC and lawyers and so on. So we tried to make it like not focus on one aspect of Guantanamo, like how people end up there, grow up, become old, and Guantanamo itself, how it started, evolved, and changed.
Wow. Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah,
I hope that works. Okay, we have a Valerie. Valerie's hand is up.
Hi, Mansoor. I've noticed that you smile most of the time when you talk about Guantanamo. Do you kind of wish that you were back there instead of in Serbia?
Okay, let's go back together. Of course not. But here's the thing, one of the things, since I got out, I live Guantanamo every single day, honestly, because you can see everything around me. I work now with Cage as Guantanamo project coordinator. I work with the Guantanamo Survivor Fund as outreach to the prisoners. I write. We wrote a book. Then I work in another book, Life Art from Guantanamo, had to get published. Then we are working on another project, audio story about us from Guantanamo, TV show, and I'm trying to get like also pitch about documentary about art from Guantanamo. So basically, for me, it become like I feel I'm obliged to do this. Also, of course, I have my own. There's like side effect. Sometimes depression. Sometimes like PTSD. But at the same time, it's kind of like when I feel happy when someone gets released, or fighting for the closure of Guantanamo for me is a duty, and also to speak out, to bring the truth about Guantanamo. I think the public deserve to know the truth about the man who was there, about Guantanamo, and also I took it like I live with men there, and I still feel I owe them something. Like, for example, one of the oldest prisoners at Guantanamo, he was my mentor, my teacher, my father at Guantanamo. And every single day, Allah knows that, like, I just want him to get released, because I know he had like heart diseases and he might die at any time. When he got released like a few months ago, his heart only was functionally 46% of his heart. Now he gets surgery, now he recovers. So, I mean, you have people attached to your life, and I'm not kind of a person who just move on with his life, because I don't know, I come from like a tribal society where we really, if you touch someone, we have to keep the fight. And yeah, this is Guantanamo. So basically, so sometimes it just, I smile, I think, this is me, it's my troublemaker.
So keep on smiling.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Unless, oh, wait, one more question. We've got Susan.
Yes, thank you. Well, I really just wanted to applaud Doreen, all the work you're doing in the US with young people, and it's absolutely right, and it's staggering that young people, the people of the future, because most of us here are of an age, we really need to get this message out, what has been happening in Guantanamo, and indeed if there are miscarriages of justice in our society. So thank you, Doreen, but that's exactly what Mansoor went on to say, and I think the concern is the silencing of the truth that needs to be spoken. And Mansoor, thank you. You used the word obligation. Absolutely, everybody has a moral responsibility. If they can breathe, I mean, we who have not experienced what you've experienced have a double responsibility to ourselves and to others to do something about it. And I'm reminded, of course, by what Pastor Naimala said, and some of you will remember this, you know, first they came for the socialists and I did nothing because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists and I did nothing because I was not a trade unionist. And he goes on, and then he says, and then they came for me and there was nobody left to answer for me. So, you know, I absolutely agree. We have an obligation, and I'm so pleased that you're there, Mansoor, to remind us of that obligation, and that will keep our impetus to be out there in our communities to talk about what's happened and to challenge these abrogations of justice. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's also part of it. It is also to educate the young generation. I have been giving a lot of classes to students around the world, and I think if we want Guantanamo to happen again, we need to educate the young generation and tell them about the truth and what happened there, because it is their future.
Unless there's any other questions, I'm going to bring this to a close. Mansoor, thank you so much for staying and talking to us. We've really had so much of your time, and we've learned so much from you, and you're just doing amazing work.
Thank you so much. Okay, it was
all
pleasure
right.
to talk to you all. Okay, Assalamu
See you,
alaikum.
folks.
See you. Bye.
As-salama.
Bye.